Welcome to everyone. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time out today to have this conversation, especially our law enforcement. We really appreciate the ability to connect with you and hopefully get a little bit more understanding of some of your thoughts and suggestions and ideas, but also give an opportunity for us to ask questions in the realm of the current issues that we've seen recently at Loyola Corners and in the past with some of the different jewelry stores. What I would love to do is allow our new police chief a few moments, first of all, to introduce herself. We want to welcome her aboard. And I want to hand the mic over to her.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
right.
I believe so.
Perfect. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet with us today. I know that there are some concerns about some recent commercial burglaries that have happened in our city. And so I think this is a great opportunity for us to connect and, for you to ask, ask any questions you may have. I've been here in Los Altos for about 2 months now. So I'm, still trying to find my way, driving around the streets. I get lost pretty easy, but it's a great city. I'm super happy to be here and excited to be working with all of you. And so from the PD today, we have Captain Katie Krause and Detective Anthony Fantozzi.
Hello.
And it was important for both of them to be on the call today because Captain Krause is in charge of our patrol operations, and Detective Fantozzi is the detective who investigates these types of crimes. So he is a great person to have on the call, and we are open to any questions that you may have or any issues that you have that we can maybe discuss or resolve during this meeting.
Let me, if I may, also ask since we have a smaller group, I think it would be helpful also for you all to know sort of who we are. And so what I'd like to do is have everybody sort of introduce themselves. That way you can get it. Just let us know where you're located in relation to Los Altos and what your business is. So let's, in my screens, I'll start with Priscilla.
Hi, everyone. My name is Priscilla Christie. I'm the owner of Discovering You. I'm actually located in San Jose, but I am a chamber member of Los Altos.
Super. Thank you, Priscilla. Kathy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy Lara, co-owner of the Los Altos Town Crier and the wife of a retired Los Altos police officer.
Super. Welcome, welcome. Abby, you go ahead.
Hi, Abby, Ashante Hotel, right at the entry to downtown, with streets on both sides, so easy in and easy out. So I'm anxious to hear what the chief has to say, and I so want to take it back to my gang to make sure that we all stay safe. So thank you for arranging this, Kacheg, and the rest of the chamber.
Super, thank you for joining. Joe?
Yeah, Joe Maletti. I'm with Avid Bank. We're actually based in San Jose, but I'm also a resident of Los Altos, what we like to call Baja Los Altos, which is near, obviously, Loyola Corners, and I'm a past chair on the board of the Chamber of Commerce as well.
Excellent. We all know Nicole as well, but I'm going to have Nicole also introduce herself.
Yeah,
our star
Hi.
From the chamber.
I'm Nicole with the chamber. I'm a Los Altos native, so I grew up in Los Altos, in Baja Los Altos, and I work here at the chamber with Kim, and Kim is on her way to Dubai right now, so I'm filling in for her. But I'm also located in what we like to call the fishbowl of Los Altos, the little glass building on Foothill Expressway.
Super. Mimi, you can introduce yourself.
Hi there, my name is Mimi Lee, and I'm the owner of a Curves Fitness Studio. And I guess I didn't realize it, but I'm Baja Los Altos too. I'm in a small building that did experience, crime. We do see it on the south end. So I'm very interested to hear how I as a merchant can help reduce crime and do our part. But mainly because we serve women, I want to make sure my customers feel safe when they come in and out to do their workout.
Excellent. Mimi, thank you. Maury?
Hi, everyone. I'm an optometrist in Baja, Los Altos. My office is Los Altos Eye Care. And we've unfortunately dealt with stolen property a few times. So I'm excited to hear what are some solutions for it. Thank you.
Super. Did I forget anybody? Well, so let me at least end that with, my name is Kachik Jingari, and I own Smythe & Cross Fine Jewelry on Main Street. We just relocated to 231 Main Street, right next to the post office. So we're actually seeing increased foot traffic. And let me at least, I think we're going to keep our structure pretty open today, more of a conversation. I don't necessarily think that we have to have any kind of formality to it. And what I would like to do is open up to questions, but I want to throw out a couple sort of questions to get us sort of going in that direction. One, just last week. So let me also preface that with, we have tried starting a small WhatsApp group for downtown merchants. And the idea was a communication sort of group conversation where if there was questions about things or if there was something that we need to notify each other of. So just last week, there was a notification from one of the jewelry stores that there were a couple of unsavory characters walking around in their store that were questionable of what they were doing. So one, I'm happy to add, for those that are interested, if you want to list your mobile number in the chat, we can add you to that group. But I'd like to sort of throw the question up. In circumstances like that, when we have sort of suspicious activity going on in an establishment, what are some of the recommendations for us as merchants with regards to reporting? We don't want to necessarily call you guys for any situation, but at what point is it important for us to reach out?
I'll go ahead and answer that. And I'll actually give you an example of what not to do. So it's important that when you are seeing suspicious activity, that you're very purposeful in what you're telling us. So what are the behaviors? Why is it suspicious? What are they wearing? Where are they at? If they're no longer in the store, what direction did they take off? Things like that. As much information as you can provide to our dispatchers is going to be very important. And when I say I'm going to give you an example of what not to do, we had a call 2 days ago where someone called in a suspicious person, and the only thing that was suspicious per the caller was that this person was sitting on the curb. He was a Black man and he didn't belong in the area. So my suggestion is to never say this person doesn't belong in this area, no matter what race they are, because we don't know that, right? We don't know where they're from or where they're going. What's important though to note is the behavior. I always say start with the behavior because it gives our officers an idea of what they're going to respond to.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm seeing a couple notifications come through. So Abby and I don't know who else popped through. I'll definitely add you guys to the WhatsApp list for the notification. Questions or
yeah, if I can add to that, and that's
please.
Obvious rationale on suspicious behavior. That's I think should be in this day and age should be very clear. But I know a couple of years ago, this pre-pandemic, there was a pretty significant wave of break-ins in our neighborhood, South Los Altos. And I haven't seen the numbers lately. I'm assuming those numbers have improved, but I've had neighbors that were broken into. I think the proximity to the freeway and kind of people can kind of come in and, kind of jump in the neighborhoods, grab what they can. There was some I think profiling of some types of residents too for holding amounts of cash and gold and whatnot. But at that time, I think it was kind of stated, and I think there was maybe more of a fear than today. I don't know, but there was more of a just, hey, if something just doesn't look right, call. That was kind of the general rule. Don't hesitate to call. And so I'm assuming that's kind of the same. If I'm listening to that, it sounds like that's pretty much the same deal. And I don't know if you have those numbers, and I'm not asking for specific numbers. I'm asking for more general numbers on this recent wave of break-ins with Loyola Corners. Is this something that's more of a trend, or is this kind of a one-off? Because I know things were kind of not so good a little while back, and then I think they improved a bit, but is this kind of a trend going forward, or?
Actually, I was going to ask if Detective Fantozzi could do a quick summary of some of the cases that we've seen lately. I think that would be helpful to start there.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on the iPhone, so I can't really figure out how to do the video portion, but as long as you can hear me, then we'll be good to go. So thanks for inviting me on this. I really appreciate it. I think conversations are really, really important for everybody involved, police and residents and business owners alike. So we're kind of all on the same page and nobody's left in the dark. So based off of my training experience, you know, I've been with Los Altos Police for 5 years. I've been the property crimes detective for 2 years. So I've kind of been in this position for a little bit. So I get to see cases of, you know, all around for the entire department. And my professional opinion, these types of property crimes are cyclical. And that's just not a situation that is unique to Los Altos. That is pretty much every city, town in the state of California and outside of the United States. So there may be instances where our, you know, criminals decides to, I guess, go through a certain city or certain cities in certain times. It's going to be completely random. And that's typically what it is. So my opinion, based off of what we have had recently, is cyclical. Los Altos is, has a very low crime rate. It's a very, very safe city. And even in these instances, it's just cyclical. So what we have seen so far is a kind of mix of commercial establishments. It doesn't really seem like there is a pattern per se, other than just what is being reported as taken, and it's primarily cash from cash registers. But again, if you're a criminal, what are you typically going to go for? You're going to go for, you know, the low-hanging fruit, which is going to be cash from a cash register, or if there's a safe box below it. So although there is a pattern, that's typically what is taken in every commercial burglary, and typically even for residential burglaries. And that is what we have seen in the past 2 weeks for the incidents downtown, as well as maybe a little bit out in the Loyola Corners area. So typically that is what it's all of them have been window smashes, and the take is cash. Without saying too much, because these are all being actively investigated, we do have an investigative lead that we're following up with, and that is a result of surveillance cameras. Surveillance cameras are very, very important. Most of the businesses that have fallen victim to burglary don't have surveillance cameras. So that makes it very, very difficult for us to have an investigative lead to follow up with. But at least one of the businesses had a camera, and that has led to us following up with a lead. Any other questions regarding that?
I don't have any question, but I think that my studio was burglarized or robbed probably in 2019. It was on a Saturday afternoon, and basically they definitely just came for cash. They didn't damage anything else. But what I learned from it is that how easy it is to just use a metal bar to just jerry-rig the doorknob, that if the doorknob, so my doorknob and my deadbolt latch, if it were just about an inch longer, they wouldn't have been able to get through. It was just too short. You know, it was just a budget-friendly purchase and simple to install. But had I known that it just needed to be just a little bit longer, then it would have been made it harder for the person to even get in, because they just made a beeline to the reception desk and took a guess at where the cash box would be. And, you know, but the good thing is they didn't hurt anybody, and it happened when nobody was there. But little things like that, I wonder if there'd be tips like that to help merchants. And I have Arlo cameras, which I'm horrible at putting the batteries in, because it involves getting on a ladder, coordinating with my husband. And then, they're just there for show. They don't help anybody. So I'm kind of like feeling bad. But tips like that would be very helpful, I think. So just to reduce the crime, I know that Altos, which is down the street from me, they did go break in an entry and they did steal cash. And I think that it's more bold these recent years. People are much more bold. They want the cash, and yeah. I don't know if we should be asking for more police to do more routes, to go through and kind of do their surveillance route, drive through, because I'm on private property and we're not there on the weekends. It's very quiet. It's easy to stay hidden back there because nobody notices. If you're just quiet, and I don't know how else, because Los Altos in general is a pretty sleepy place, right? And so how is it as a community and merchants we can help each other to watch out for each other?
Well, if I may, one thing that you just did say, Mimi, was with regards to tips, and I think was something I just literally made a note of a couple minutes before you said it. I think what we can also work on through the chamber, and I'll talk to Kim when she gets back, and maybe that's something that we can run by PD also for your input, is to set up a list of tips for merchants, security best practices, tips of, what types of systems to set up, how to set them up, whether it's camera systems, what they should be focused on, where to store things, how to store things, a tip sheet like that, or at least some kind of a resource for merchants, I think would also be helpful. I mean, for me, in my industry, our entire industry it's ingrained in our culture, that whole security portion of it, not so much for others. So for me, it's a little bit more, I get a lot of these, we have the cameras, we've got the safes and all that stuff, but not for everybody. So I think if we put together some kind of a tip sheet with some best practices for merchants, I think that would be a great start as well. And if you have recommendations, Mimi, with regards to sort of content for that, whether you have the answers for it or not, I think it would be helpful. We can include that in that list as well.
Yeah, so I was just going to share, sorry. We have a part of our website is a Business Watch page. Business Watch was kind of like Neighborhood Watch. We tried to kind of get it going. We didn't get a ton of buy-in on it when Captain Scott McCrossin was trying to do it. However, there is a whole page that has all of that tip stuff you're talking about. There's a whole section on shoplifting prevention, robbery prevention. There's a Business Watch flyer. So it is on our website under Business Watch. So if that's something you wanted to share out, the information is there as far as that goes. Super. And then also another thing that we have always offered as a service here for homes and businesses is either we've come out and done presentations. I know our detectives have come to chamber meetings and have come to different businesses that have invited to either talk about, shoplifting prevention, identity theft prevention, how to, prevent yourself from being a victim of a crime for a group of merchants or a merchant that has some employees. And then also we can come and do what are called kind of business inspections, where we will walk through your business like we do home inspections, and kind of point out areas that we find concerning, right? Where this is an area you probably want to put some cameras. This area here is the windows blocked by bushes, and so that makes you more of a target, things of that nature. So our officers can come out and do those inspections of businesses just to give tips. Now, we cannot give the name of a certain camera company that we would, suggest, because we're not allowed to do that, but we can certainly give you different ideas of how to further protect your business as much as possible. And
That
there
would
is
be-
on our website, there's a section where you can request that, either as a home inspection, but just go in there and put in your business name and we can get that assigned out to an officer or a CSO.
Captain Krause, could you also expand a little bit more on the Business Watch program and explain sort of what at least what it was and what it is now? Because
Yeah,
honestly,
so
it's the first time I'm hearing about it, so I'm really interested to know what it is.
yeah, so it was a Business Watch program. Was basically we were collecting information from different businesses, and then we were kind of having that information. For example, a lot of times our businesses aren't open on weekends, and so if we have a break-in on a weekend, we don't always have the contact information to get a hold of the business owner to come and secure the business or to do a walkthrough and tell us what is taken. And a lot of times we have to, unfortunately, just leave a business card and have you guys call us on a Monday or Tuesday when you return. And that's obviously caused concern for people that, you know, you weren't able to come out right away, or your business was left unsecured or something of that nature. So if we have that information and we can put it into our file where we can attach your name and your home contact information to your business, that allows us to contact you if there is an incident at your place of business during closed hours. And then also it was allowing us to do reach out to the businesses. So they were, Captain McCrossin was doing a newsletter about current crime trends, giving tips. And so he was doing a Business Watch newsletter to push out that information to the businesses. Unfortunately, we had very, very low enrollment in it. I want to say at the most, we might have had like 10 businesses who had signed up for it. So it didn't really make a lot of sense for him to keep pushing out this newsletter for such a small group. Certainly something we can look at moving forward is this something we, you know, have interest in and, you know, can have a larger group of people who are enrolled in it. There still is on there that you can enroll in Business Watch. And then if we get some interest, then possibly that's something we can start pushing out again. But yeah, they would talk about trends. This is stuff to look out for. These are how many, you know, calls we've had in the last month at different commercial establishments. And then you also can check if you have video surveillance or an alarm system at your business, so that we would know as well that maybe you have surveillance at your business, but the one across the street doesn't. We can cross-reference that and see, can we use your cameras to try to see something that happened across the street? So that was the purpose of it.
But no, I mean, I'm happy to hear this. I wish I'd known about it further, but beforehand, but I mean, that's our bad, right? But this is excellent, because it seems like there's a lot of information, a lot of pertinent content that we basically should figure out a way to disseminate to our members and to the broader business community, because I think it'd be super helpful.
Yeah.
Mimi, go ahead.
So I have a question in that when we register our business license with the city of Los Altos, they ask the question, I think, on there for like an emergency contact, but does that get shared with the police department?
It
Because
has
I've
not.
always wondered.
I know it makes sense that it would be, right? Because you're marking that for emergency contact. However, that has not been information that has been shared. That has been a conversation we have started to have with City Hall to say, hey, can we have access to that? However, it would be much easier if we just had the ability, if through Business Watch or sign up, we could connect those two. So we are trying to get access to that business permit list, because if we had that, then we could look up your contact information. So we are working on that now, of trying to have access to that so that we can contact people.
And is that something that the chamber can then support in that process? I mean, is there something that we could do as the chamber to, because I was going to ask the same question. When we first set up our business license, one of the first things and I've actually updated it for the moves and this and that. So if there's something that we can do as a chamber to help that process along, I'm sure that we could figure out something to sort of support that process.
Well, let me reach out to Anthony Carneseca and just see what the status is on the sharing of that document. The only concerns we had were, you turn in your business permit, unless you move locations like you did, sometimes things change hand, phone numbers change. So it really is pertinent that the business owners update that anytime they have changes, or else the list just becomes outdated. We try a phone number and it never works and it doesn't, so we need to make sure that information is up to date, or else it really has no purpose if, the addresses, phone numbers aren't valid anymore. So that would just be something we would need to communicate out, that, that's without that, then it's really not going to do us much good if people don't update their information. But I will reach out to him.
Mike from Altos, I'm really glad you're here, Mike. So he has a question, Katie.
Yes, sir. You're unmuted, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Couple comments probably before your time. So I just counted in my head, 5 times that we've been broken into at my location.
Mhm.
And I know the police can't, as you mentioned, tell you what company to buy your cameras from. But one thing they can do is they can give you a list of, I'm sure they can give you a list of at least 2 or 3 different companies that do what they call board up. Because the last thing a business owner needs at 3:30 in the morning is going through the internet trying to find a glass company or somebody that can board up their operation. That's I wanted to mention that. And then my other comment was more of a criticism, and don't take it personal, but I've been here 37 years, so I've seen many police department officers, chiefs, what have you, not to mention city managers. And I've noticed the times I've been broken into, the most recent time was around, I think, 2 o'clock in the morning before the pandemic. And my front of my building is lit up like a Roman candle. So from Foothill Expressway, it's very visible. And it wasn't until 7:30 in the morning, so it's 5.5 hours after it's broken into, when I came to see it, that that was noticed, because the way they went through, it didn't set off the alarm because they went through the door and it didn't trip off the alarm by the top head. So I'm right there. So my question was, and my concern was, I believe that the patrol, whoever's working patrol, I'll be right there, Aida. I'm sorry, whoever is working patrol at night, other than if they're doing enforcement on Foothill Expressway, I strongly encourage and believe they should take the frontage roads where these businesses are located, whether it's Rancho, Main Street, State Street, along Grant Road, what have you, circle the neighborhood, get on the expressway. That's just a to and from where they're going. So obviously, if someone had driven through using peripheral vision, they'd have realized there was a problem. It's after the fact, I realize that, but it's kind of discouraging to know that whatever you have 1 or 2 people on at night, that after 5 hours that no one recognized that something happened. So I didn't mean criticism, but I thought it was an opportunity just to let you know that. Okay.
We appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.
Sure.
And I'll throw out one other sort of tip that I've discovered also that may help for a lot of people. In fact, we just did an event here at the store about a week or so ago, and one of the detectives that was on duty, we were talking about, with regards to alarm systems. So the alarm systems, they're not going to stop people from getting in, but they're definitely going to be a good deterrent, one with the signage that goes up, but also with regards to the actual sirens and bells and so on and so forth. The one specific thing that I have done over the past couple of years is to ensure that on our alarm call list, the first contact is the police department, not me, not somebody else. If there's an issue, I don't want to play around with, let's find this person or that person. And I've known also from a lot of the clients that we've had that have had robberies in their homes, one of the challenges is that they have 6 or 7 people listed on the call list before the police department. So then all of a sudden now that response time is getting reduced by, so many different phone calls being made. So again, I think this is another thing that we can include in that sort of tip sheet, and playing off of what's already online, is that, to make sure that when you are setting up your alarm call list, so that the police department is the first point of contact if an alarm does go off. Other questions or comments, areas that we would like to cover? Again, like I said, it's a very kind of loose conversation today.
Kachik, to the comment you just made, the hotel ends up, because of loss of power downtown, which is very consistent, it automatically triggers our fire alarm people, who, yes, they have the police, but in all fairness, just like the school district, when the kids hit the alarm bell, there's a huge price to pay to the police to come out consistently over and over and over again. So some thought needs to be given as to exactly how you do that. So if it's maybe not ringing outside, but it is alerting your alarm company within, perhaps Captain Kraus might have some ideas as to how, let's say somebody, unlike the hotel where there's always somebody here on duty, they would know not to keep sending the police if it wasn't really something happening. I mean, I'm sure there's a way that happens. Katie, maybe you could share.
Yeah, I
with
mean,
us.
there's two different types of alarms that obviously you can put into your business. There's the silent alarms and then there's audible alarms. Silent alarms typically are used by banks, sometimes jewelry stores, where if something suspicious is going down, they can push a button and it doesn't alert in the store, but it automatically alerts the alarm company or the police. We have a different kind of response for silent alarms. Audible alarms can be, I think Fantozzi could probably speak to this as well. If they're loud enough, they certainly can be a deterrent if they start going off in a business. Number one, they're going to get the attention of anyone else in the area. In the middle of the night, that doesn't do a whole lot, but sometimes that noise can get the crooks to get out as soon as possible. Now, if they're just running in and grabbing your cash register and they're in there for less than a minute, then the auto alarm doesn't do a whole lot of good. And that's where Fantozzi was talking about the cameras being especially helpful, because that at least can give us investigative leads to do some follow-up. And those cameras not only being within the business to get an image of a face or something, but also on the exterior of the business facing forward where the cars tend to pull up before they do the crime in order to get license plates and things of that nature. Fantozzi, do you have anything additional on that as far as, you know, the effectiveness of audible versus silent alarms?
Yeah, absolutely. Audible alarms are great because, you know, most of the criminals, they're hoping that they can basically smash a window or find an unlocked door and avoid detection for as long as they can, even though they may be, you know, committing these crimes, you know, 1 a.m, 2 a.m, you know, whatever. An audible alarm is going to deter some, not all. There's just going to be some criminals who just don't care. You know, they've already gone in with the mindset that they're going to commit the crime no matter what. But an audible alarm paired with cameras are a good deterrent. Like Mike from Altos was saying, lighting up your business with as many exterior lights, maybe even leaving a light on the inside of the business, are all great deterrents. But there's just some criminals they've already gone with the mindset that they're going to do it no matter what. And one thing all you as business owners can do on your free time is really kind of see for yourselves how long it really takes to get in your business, go to the register and get out. You'll find out you'll be able to do that in less than 30 seconds. So everybody's homework is lock the door of your business and then time yourself. Put the key in the lock, walk straight to the register, and then walk out the business. You're going to be in and out in probably less than 30 seconds. And that's where setting up your alarm system for a delay could also be an issue as well. Some people set their alarm to, you know, give somebody 30 seconds of a delay to enter in the key code before an alarm is, you know, started. That's all a suspect really needs. So if whoever your provider is, if they can reduce that time before an audible alarm takes off, that is something that is also another deterrent. And like I said, cameras on the inside of the business, cameras that are high quality during day and night, and even just looking at what the camera quality is at night. Some people put a camera right by a front light over their doorstep thinking, okay, the camera is right in front of the light, it should record great, but they never even see it for themselves. And then when something, God forbid, happens, they review the footage and they say, oh, geez, the light is blurring out the quality of the camera. So even after you put in those cameras, seeing it for yourself, is it in a good position where if somebody walks through the front door of my business or the rear door of the business, is there going to be a good, clear shot of who's walking in and out, as well as the parking lot, where are they parking? All those things may be of a deterrent, but if it isn't for the criminals who just want to get the quick cash and run out, it gives me an investigative lead to follow up with. Most of the criminals, they basically go on that, you know, it depends, but, you know, some criminals go up El Camino Real and basically they'll start somewhere else, pass through town and continue onwards. Some, you know, it's just completely random. But that's where a surveillance camera that captured footage is helpful, because as a detective, a big part of my job is networking with other detectives in nearby agencies, because most of the time our criminals are linked. What happens in Mountain View, Palo Altos, Sunnyvale, Los Altos Hills, Cupertino, Saratoga, what happens in all those neighboring cities, Los Altos is in the middle. of all of those neighboring cities. So if something happened there, there's a strong likelihood that they may have passed through here. Or if they pass through here, there's a likelihood they pass through Cupertino or the hills, So that's where the importance of a camera comes, because that gives me something to talk about with other investigators and other detectives and say, hey, this was what happened last night over here. Did you guys have any similar incidents? And then we can work together collectively to help each other out. But yes, audible alarms reduce the amount of time it takes for you to enter in that passcode so that, there is less of a delay when police are dispatched to that alarm.
And if I could also just speak really quickly about the comment from the gentleman earlier. I'm sorry, I don't remember what your name was. You're saying that we should recommend or give a list of VARTA alarms. And Fantozzi, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen VARTA alarms in many, many, many years. That was kind of, I don't want to say it's outdated technology, but I personally have not interacted with any sort of VARTA alarm in a very long time. It used to be set up that the alarm would go off at the business and it would alert dispatch, and it would also create an audible alarm at the business. But I don't believe that we still have that technology here, but I'm not sure if Fantozzi, if you even know what I'm talking about.
Sorry, I'm not too familiar, but yeah, not familiar that we received too many with that vendor.
Question, if I may, it's Abby. We would like to update our cameras. We've learned that how long the tape is good for may not be long enough to allow detectives, for example, to come back. We haven't had an issue. And while I recognize that you can't give us brands, is it possible, Katie, is the business watch that you're asking us, if I'm not already on it, does it actually give all the details of what it needs to be? I mean, kind of like Apple with each iPhone, it's got all the details of what it has, and it doesn't matter whether you're buying an iPhone or you're buying, some other brand. Is there a way we can get the best technology knowledge as opposed to brand name?
Well,
okay, Captain Kraus had to step away. I'm sorry, it seemed like you were asking two separate questions, Abby. Can you just clarify?
Yeah, certainly happy to. The ability to know what the best technology would be, for example, on a camera system, not the brand name, but just what would the technology include? Since we understand that you can't advertise brands, but at least having that information of what the alarm system should have or the camera system should have would allow us then, as we are looking at what's available on the market, to know what would be the best thing to buy.
I think basically a recommended requirements from a camera system, whether it's, so many, let's say a hard drive with X amount of memory for so many weeks of time, or X amount of placement per square foot, that type of thing. I think we can also maybe include that in the tips that we come up with. And again, maybe, piggybacking off of what's already set up with the police department currently. If there isn't something like that, maybe we can create that and add that into it. Does that make sense?
That'd be great, Patrick.
Yeah. And was it Mike? I apologize if I forgot the first name from yes, please go ahead. Let me unmute you here because I saw your hand is up. And
Mike, you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
yes, you would raise
Mike.
your hand to make, yes,
Right,
I'm sorry. Sorry, Mike. Go right ahead,
Mike
please.
Mike is my name. So the lady asked about that alarm. The Chamber of Commerce would be like a sales presentation, but they could reach out to one or two different alarm companies and ask them to come to a presentation to the board of directors of the chamber. They tell you the ins and outs of what they have and where they have them, and people can draw their own conclusions. They could pass the information on to other people. And then Abby, you asked about, were you asking about the alarm company notifying the police department?
No, I just mentioned that that's the first question when the alarm goes off.
Mhm.
Is they
That's
do
your alarm service.
call
That's
police.
your alarm service should do that for you. You should tell them.
Yes, they
You
do.
want them
They
to
do.
contact the police.
But they ask, they do. We've asked them to ask because of the number of outages of power downtown.
Right.
It often triggers
Right.
more often than you would believe how many times a week we have some kind of fluctuation. And that's just enough to alert the alarm people. And so they have 2 numbers. They call both numbers right immediately and say, do you need police or fire?
That's a good point. That's
These
interesting.
cameras I'm having issues with. I want to upgrade our camera system.
Uh-huh.
So in other words, cameras in the hotel hallways,
Right.
but most importantly, we've learned that the cameras that face out could be very helpful to other offices and merchants because of the fact of the way we sit.
Right.
And I don't know what to buy. And so that's why I was looking for technical information.
Yeah.
So I can speak a little bit to that. Since we just moved into the new space, we had a completely new burglar as well as camera system installed. With regards to the call list, what I would say is, I think every business kind of has to sort of manage that process also, depending upon what the needs and necessities are. If you are having issues with triggers and so on and so forth, and you have staff on premises 24 hours, so it's a bit of a unique kind of scenario. For a lot of merchants that are, you're not having that many false alarms, so on and so forth. At least from, our insurance company takes a big involvement in security for retail stores. So they always have their tips that they present, and they're always recommending to at least have the first person, if not the second person called, be the police department, so that there's no question about any kind of a break-in. But going back to the cameras, we just set up with Bay Alarm. So Bay Alarm has been our alarm company for a number of years. We used to have a sort of out-of-the-box system that we purchased, believe it or not, at Costco. That was a decent system. It was a DVR-based system, so that means that there's a hard drive that everything gets recorded to. It would keep about 2 weeks worth of content, 24 hours, both in color and with infrared cameras that would capture things in night if it was dark. That usually will come with anywhere from 4 to 6 cameras that you can install yourself. You can wire it in. There are things like Ring and so forth that are more simplified. I mean, I have one that's security something or another that my mom uses at home. But I think for commercial application, depending upon your square footage, it may behoove you to actually go with a security company and their actual monitoring service as well. So we do have, and again, we're in that outlier source, so please take it with a grain of salt. But we have our camera systems. We've got about 15 cameras throughout, inside and outside of the store, that are not only recorded 24/7, but they're saved to the cloud. We have off-site monitoring. So there's various different levels of cameras that you can utilize. I think, Abby, for in your case, because of the square footage of your location and because of the number of cameras that you would require to cover, it may behoove you to go with a security company to actually do full monitoring. It's not inexpensive. Our sort of basic system is running probably around 13, 14,000, and we're 2,500 square feet. I'm happy to share this with everyone. And so it's not the most inexpensive, it's not the most cost advantageous, but you have to weigh it based upon what your needs and requirements are. For us, obviously,
yeah, we're not as worried about somebody stealing a sheet as
of course,
as you would be about a diamond. We do use Bay Alarm. But the cost to monitor for outside, which would be really helpful for the police, as we have learned, we're at a corner where accidents occur, and it just would be very helpful in general. But it's not a cost I want to take on because we would have losses that would warrant it. So that's why I was looking for maybe an independent camera setup that could be installed.
Well, and the other option is to do a secondary system that's just focused on the outside, that you could easily again, if you're looking for just some basic additional coverage from a cost perspective, you may want to invest with a company called Lorex that we used previously. LOREX. I think it's a Canadian company, but they do sell the packages through Costco. You can buy them directly off of their website. I'm not promoting any brands whatsoever, but that's just one example that you could use. Again, they have the apps where you can go on your phone and see the camera angles and see the footage from there. It'll capture, record, so on and so forth. A lot of the jewelry stores have used these types of systems also. About 4 years ago, we had a series of break-ins or attempted break-ins here in Los Altos, including our store as well as Marcel across the street.
I remember.
Yeah. Oh my God, Preziosi at Rancho, Diamond Broker across the street from Drager's. You know, a number of us did have at least some basic camera captures that we were able to utilize to be able to get that to PD. And the other thing also is for the alarm companies. The other thing that you can do is reach out to your existing alarm companies if you do have them, and have them come in also and do an assessment. I think PD's offer to come in and assess both camera and security is fantastic. I mean, here's a completely unbiased resource that can come in and tell you, okay, you need this, and this. I would highly encourage that for people. And then, again, reach out to the alarm companies and security companies themselves as well, and even have them come out and give you estimates. It doesn't cost them to do that. So you all may find some things that you didn't realize. Other question, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I know we're gonna be running out of time here, and while we have the police here on the call, I did want to reach out, personally as a resident, and I'm sure on behalf of the chamber, just whatever you need from us to help this on the, I mean, we're talking about obviously burglar alarms and all that stuff is preventative, but also for the tools that you need to help prevent, if it's officers on patrol more. I'm assuming that's more of a funding thing, or anything that's coming down the pipe that can assist your efforts in hopefully preventing more crime, or obviously to enforce it in general. I just want to reach out there and say, use us as a resource. If something comes up, please notify Kim at the chamber for the business community. Whatever help you need. Not asking you to say anything on the phone right now. If anything comes to mind, go ahead. But I just wanted to bring that up, and please use us as a resource. I think we're all here to help your efforts as well. So just want to pass that along.
And let me just add on, because I know our police chief has to run to another meeting. So I want to pass the microphone to you for the last couple comments. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. Thank you so much. No, I really appreciate, again, everyone's time today. I know everyone is extremely busy running businesses. So thank you for taking a few minutes to speak with us. If I can make a suggestion, in addition to requesting that anyone who has not filled out the Business Watch form, if you could please fill that out and pass that on to any other business owners that you're in contact with. But would you be interested in either a quarterly or twice a year meeting similar to this, where we can all introduce ourselves, and as a police department, we can update you on any emerging trends that we may see. We can kind of summarize what's happened the last few months, because it's important to me that we work together, but also that I keep you all in the loop on what we're seeing on our end. So I'm just throwing that out there to see if there's any interest in that moving forward.
Yeah, I'll speak on.
Go ahead, Joe. Yeah.
Just for your reference, Chief, is that we do have usually a month, every month or two, we have a government affairs committee that meets, and we used to meet downtown in person. It's recently been obviously Zoom calls, but hopefully we'll get back to the in-person meetings. But that's a great resource for you. And I would assume talk with Kim at the chamber about getting on that agenda. And I think that'd be great. That's always a source for communications between all parts of the government. And in the business community. So it's an easy.
I'll actually be on that meeting tomorrow.
Oh,
I
that's
was gonna
right.
say, I think she's
That's
scheduled
right,
for
I
that tomorrow.
forgot.
So.
Perfect. I didn't realize it was monthly, so that's great.
We try.
Thank you. Yes, I will be there tomorrow. Well, that's great. Then I'll make sure I gather some stats for you all for tomorrow's meeting. And if there's any topics that you would like me to cover that we haven't already covered, please let me know.
Super. Chief, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm happy to keep the conversation going also, because I know the chief has to run off to another meeting. But if there's other questions or things that we would like to discuss, we can probably stay on for another 5 or so minutes and continue the conversation. I know that there was a question also presented, I think someone presented through Nicole about, overnight break-ins we've talked about, but what do we do during the day for retail petty theft, people grabbing, things like that? Any suggestions or any experiences people have had that they'd like to share?
Before I jump off, I'll just say one more real quick thing.
Of course.
So in walking downtown past some of the businesses, I've noticed that some of the businesses put items out in front of the store, like on the sidewalk, which is a great marketing tool, but it's also eye candy for people that want to steal. So my suggestion is, when possible, to not leave items out like that, kind of unsecured. And I don't think that's necessarily a huge problem that we have in Los Altos, but it's still an issue. And, I think just doing things that are smart and that make sense. It's really difficult, though, to prevent retail theft in the daytime, especially for people that are prolific at it. And that's kind of their job. They go from business to business and they steal things. But this goes back to how this whole conversation started. When you see suspicious behavior, you see someone looking around or crouching down, or their behavior is just out of the ordinary, please make sure you give us a call, because the faster we can get there, maybe there's a chance that we can prevent something from occurring. So we really need your help in that area. Please don't feel like, it's not okay to call us or that you're being a burden. We want to try to prevent crime as much as possible and not be so reactive, when we can. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And again, thank you all for your time. And I look forward to speaking with probably most of you again tomorrow.
Super, Chief. Thank you so very much for your time too.
Yep. Thank you.
Anybody else? Last sort of comments, thoughts? All righty, I think then we will end our session today.
Kachi?
Yes, my dear.
Joe, I think that in any way to simplify how we connect and use, the existing resources through the Chamber of Commerce, that's where all the merchants are. That's where the main communication should go through. I think that would make it for a much more successful, because clearly when the police department tried to do it by themselves, they got 10 people to sign up for their newsletter.
Yeah, that's
So
not
if they
good.
systematically work through the chamber, and they had a standing scheduled meeting with the Government Affairs Committee, I told Kim that I would love to welcome the new police chief. I want to host a networking meeting at Curves, because it's really cool that we have a woman police chief. But but at the same time, I also had ideas like, why don't we have a coffee with the police, because with the merchants, because there were Mike had issues. Or we'll have coffee at Mike's place in the afternoon when it's quieter. But as merchants, we come together. What's going on? This is what we're concerned about in regards to crime. What can we do? And I'm not saying that it's rampant, but it's annoying enough to where thousands and thousands of dollars are being lost. Or things like in our little parking lot, what are they called? The catalytic converters, were stolen because the workers kept their truck there, catalytic converters. How about things that were stolen off of Maury's, the opticians? She had things on display and she caught on camera. A neighbor would walk by and just steal the little statue. And it was ridiculous. But I mean, that's a small thing. I'm concerned, like Brian for the auto repair, he was noticing, and I've been noticing too, the parking lot for Lucky's and the Curves parking lot, there's a little section where, I don't know, but people hang out because there's trees. And we were just wondering, maybe those cars, maybe they're resting their afternoon break, but maybe they're casing the area. They're watching the traffic go in and out from this building to Lucky's. They're just casing it for when the opportunity comes up, because we don't know who they're not employees parked there. They're just random people that are parked. You just don't know, right? And it's okay if people are hanging out, but you don't know if they're starting to think of, unscrupulous stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely there's I mean, for me, from today's conversation, I think there's a lot of takeaways. I think there's a lot that we can do even on a basic level. One, learning a lot about what the police department already offers, first and foremost, I think was a huge plus. And I think that if we can get that information disseminated to our members and sort of be a hub, I think that's step number one. I agree. I think, having a more regular connection with police department, I think would be a great sort of plus for us as well. One, to get to know the officers and the detectives and the entire, team that's there, but also to learn about any kind of, things that we should be aware of, sort of concerns. That kind of dialogue, I think, is always helpful. So we can definitely, take this back to the board and have some discussions to see what we can do to create those connections. And then also, in the case, for example, like we were talking about earlier with the emergency contact details, supporting the police department in their efforts with the city to get that information, saying, hey, city, please, this is something that we would like done as merchants. We want that information sent over to the police department. So maybe if it's a privacy issue, maybe it's something that we're on the business, license, it's a little tick box. Can we share this information with the police department? I think it's kind of ridiculous that they had to ask that, but still, the PD should have immediate access to that kind of information. There shouldn't be this back and forth. So
yeah, I just wanted to chime in that I definitely think that we can leverage the chamber's email list, and we can either send out, I think, especially whenever we have a new member join, to direct them there to make sure their information is connected to their business license and registered with the police. And then we could also send out maybe like every 6 months or so, remind people to update that information. And I understand that their newsletter was only getting 10 people to look at, but if they could send us some of that information, maybe once a quarter, we could put that in our e-newsletter, which is going out to, 600 people, and hopefully get more eyes on it. So
yeah,
I think there's definitely ways the chamber can use that and to help them.
Right. And to me, that was a big failure. Either, I don't know who to point the finger on that one from us not knowing it, but the police departments, that's their marketing department that for some reason I guess they posted on the website and hope people were looking at it. So
I think, Joe, I think the focus within, I think it's evolving. The role of the chamber, I feel like just recently, particularly under Kim's leadership, I feel like it's been more business focused. Otherwise, before that, I think also maybe there weren't major big issues, right? But I feel like, before I felt like it was social. You were making friends when you went networking, but I feel like recent under Kim's leadership, I feel like it's been much more business focused. Like in my mind, having regular meetings with the police, and it's not like every month or every 2 weeks, but there's going to be a section that supports retail outlets, people where they have foot traffic coming in, like Walgreens. Why would you want people going in and stealing all of the cough syrup, you know? And then the employees are scared, or the employees can't do anything. You can't touch it. How about Draeger's? Tori is always saying that people are bold. They go in and steal expensive bottles of wine and walk out the door. They don't even run. They just walk out because they know that the grocery store clerks can't do anything. So there's a specific work group or tips and techniques for that audience. Something different for big ticket items like a jewelry store like Kachik. But, you know, for those of us who are like more or office settings, these are the things that, you know, they may not need as much, but they should have the basics covered. But I think that there's definitely clusters of things that you have to take care of, and it'll really help those groups of merchants and small businesses.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. One, I want to be cognizant of our time because we're running over on our presentation, but I really think that, you know, today's conversation was very helpful, very eye-opening, because I think, one, it opened our eyes to a lot of resources that are already there. I'd like, you know, again, once Kim gets back, we can have a little bit of a sit down and start to talk about this also in the executive board about, you know, starting out with, you know, getting in touch with taking sort of a housekeeping. What kind of resources do we have? What kinds of things we can implement immediately? And then what kinds of programs can we look at moving forward, whether it's a, you know, quarterly or twice a year meet up with the police department. I think we have a lot of great suggestions. Let me also thank everybody for participating and joining us this afternoon. And let's definitely keep this conversation going. And on behalf of the chamber, once again, my thanks to the police department for joining us today. And also a special thank you to our lovely Nicole, who's always great about handling the logistics with putting these together. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kachik.
Yeah, we will look forward to seeing you all soon.
Yeah, and just Kachik, I'll just say, yeah, we can do that. And I think given the bigger picture issues, Mimi, just to address what you said, I think the people going into the stores and grabbing things, I think there's definitely a societal tolerance to that has been tough for law enforcement to enforce. So you know, that's where I'm saying we need to help them, because their hands get tied a lot. The clerk behind the counter's hands are tied. I mean, it's like, so there's part of that, but I think given where the economy is going right now, there's going to be more of this going on with the amount of inflation that's out there. It's, you know, all around town, it's $7 a gallon for gas. I don't know how people do it. You know, it's sad, because that hits everybody. Anyway, so I think you're going to see more and more of that, unfortunately. So we'll have to do what we can to help them. And we'll definitely, I think having the new chief does kind of spark an outreach from Kim to kind of rekindle that, I'll just say. And I think it's a good kind of starting point. Like Mimi said, a welcoming kind of a thing. So I think it's a good kind of excuse, and then we can kind of keep that dialogue going forward.
And I think she's coming from, what is it, Hayward, right? The socioeconomics, you know, she's seen more. She's going to have more experience to where she may be able to apply that. I'm hoping she'll be able to apply some of those for the Los Altos, because Los Altos has been known to be kind of sleepy.
Right.
You know, so, okay. Great to see you all. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Nicole. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.